Now listen up.
Because Insights EDU 2025 is coming, and this is the conference you don't want to miss. Meet us February 12th through 14th in New Orleans for one of our favorite higher education marketing and enrollment management events of the year. Imagine 3 days packed with actionable insights and the latest innovations in higher ed. We're talking top industry experts, real-world case studies, and hands-on workshops designed to help you grow your programs, boost engagement, and elevate your student experience. This is your chance to hear the latest higher ed trends from speakers at Google, Reddit, Meta, MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Mark your calendars, get your team, and get ready to welcome the era of the modern learner at Insights EDU 2025. Register now at insightsedu.com and secure your spot. We'll see you there.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience, and today we are extremely excited to announce our paid subscription service. By subscribing today, you will get exclusive early access to ad-free episodes, extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Dr. Joe Salustio back with you on another episode. As we're recording this, schools are back in session. You might hear this when I record this. It's March. It's not March. It's September. Why I said March, I have no idea. And that'll be something that'll be a mystery for the rest of my life. It's September. And schools have had students back on campus. Students are getting back into the swing of things, which means there is a lot going on today's college campuses. Not only do we have the value conversation that hangs as a cloud over us of what's the value of a degree, we have mergers, we have acquisitions, we've gone through these things at length on this podcast, but there's new stuff happening too as a result of new regulation, new administrations that are coming. Look, it's going to be, I would say, up and down over the next year or so until things settle. And so we want to find out literally what the heck is going on. So we brought in a journalist, and we're going to ask the journalist questions, which usually he does. So I'm going to flip the script a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Mark Drozdowski. He's the lead writer at BestColleges. Mark, what's going on?
Oh, a whole lot, like you just outlined. But thanks for inviting me. It's nice to be with you. I'm a big fan.
Well, thank you. I'll pay you the $10 for saying that later. But you said it. There's a lot going on in campuses. And one of the things that I find fascinating about being a journalist and trying to, not about me being a journalist because I'm not, but one of the things I find about someone in your position is what exactly do you focus on? How do you decide what stories you want to chase? Does there have to be a socioeconomic impact or a fiscal impact of some kind? How do you decide? That's my first question to you.
Yeah, that is a great question. And I guess there are a lot of answers to that. The first thing I would say is I look for trends. If something seems to be ephemeral or a one-off, it's, depending on what it is, it's not as interesting to me. I think it's either continuing a trend or starting a trend, that we always know that, then it's far more interesting. I also like to look at different kinds of stories. So, in addition to themes like admissions and testing and enrollment patterns, questions of success, rankings, public policy, etc. I take deep dives into like unique institutions such as the University of the People or St. John's College. I love offbeat topics. I've covered programs in comedy, happiness studies, beer, fermentation science.
Now we're talking, Mark.
The rise of college pickleball, Jeopardy, faculty and student tournaments, Corky College athletic traditions, commencement speeches, you name it. So, there's, like I said, there's a number of answers to that, but basically I'm looking for things that are most important to the consumer, that is the students and their families. What matters? I mean, we are a consumer-facing website, helping college students and high school students make good decisions and giving them information that they need and different ways to think about higher education. So, the consumer comes first, but also looking at these trends and seeing how things are developing across campuses. And again, if it's something that plays out a number of different kinds of institutions across the system, it's more interesting to me than it's in one place, unless it's really cool.
I did hear beer and fermentation studies in there. Cheers. But we'll talk about that on another podcast. Mark, we first met because you tapped me for a story and interviewed me for a story that you were doing on college presidencies and the interim college presidency based on some of the disruption that has been happening on college campuses, political disruption. And then I swear, I can't remember who it was, but it was, I don't know, like a couple of weeks after you ran the story, one of the schools that you had mentioned, or maybe, I can't remember who it was, announced an interim president would be there for a year after you had literally predicted it. And we talked about it, right? That it's safe. And now we come back to school after that period of disruption. What's happening on college campuses today that's noteworthy right now?
Well, yeah, that was story that you referenced was at Harvard. Harvard announced their interim president.
No, it was after. It was after that. I think it was UPenn. Might have been UPenn or somebody that announced.
And had done that. Harvard originally had an interim and then announced he was going to be on board as, well, not quite interim, but sort of de facto interim.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they're to use an outdated phrase, pumping the brakes on some of these searches. So what's going on? The great thing about being on this side, asking a lot of questions is, I don't presume to know all the answers. I have any opinions about things, but it's best to go in not thinking you know the answers. But I can tell you this. The media coverage, and I'll include myself in this, and to some extent my colleagues, I don't want to presume to speak for all of them, but the media coverage of higher education these days is generally all about bad news. There isn't a whole lot of good news. So let's add this. What are the stories about? High tuition, massive student loan debt, enrollment declines, imminent demographic cliff, the FAFSA kerfuffle, the last year course encampments and academic year encampments, free speech controversies, leaders under fire, like you just referenced, prompting late night parodies, opaque admissions processes, legacy preferences. I can go on and on. Stratification, lack of access.
So you're saying there's no shortage of reporting angles for you?
That's true, but it tends to be fairly negative. College sports turning into a free-for-all cash run. Scandals like Varsity Blues and the 568 cartel case. Colleges cheating on rankings. Enrollment declines. So, this is the reason why confidence in higher education among the general public has plummeted. Colleges have a massive public relations problem on their hands. I think there's some good news out there, and to use a phrase that you mentioned earlier, we can flip the script. Colleges can do so with better storytelling and a more sort of offensive mindset. Defense wins championships in professional sports, but it doesn't make for good public relations. So I think ways to promote better stories. I mean, a lot of this stems from an obsession with elite institutions. That's who gets the headlines. Right? That's where the most interest is, at least among the media. So much of what I talked about plays out at these elite schools, these varsity blues cases, et cetera, single-digit admissions rates, student over this, massive endowments, hoarding, lack of expansion. But we're talking about fewer than 1% of American undergraduates at these Ivy Plus institutions. 59 colleges or thereabouts accept less than 25% of applicants. More than 2/3 of kids attend college within 50 miles of their home. And almost, 40% or so of undergraduates are in community. I think it's incumbent upon us, and I've tried to do this, I have done this on some occasions, to tell these stories about these kinds of colleges impacting these students, community colleges, regional colleges, but it's really doing the lion's share of educating people and providing economic mobility. I'm not to say that we should discount elite universities. There's a reason they get these headlines, groundbreaking research, and they educate a disproportionate number of graduates who occupy influential positions. But I think if we as media, again, I don't speak for everybody, but I certainly adopt this mindset, and if colleges themselves focus more on these positive stories of affordable colleges doing wonderful things for their students and the communities that they're in, the American public would have a little bit more faith in our system of higher education. Maybe that's Pollyannish, but I think it's a positive and worthwhile mindset.
That's a fact. That's a fact. I got to tell you, I agree. I know my listeners will agree. Part of that, and what you said is so true, that we, higher education, have over the years become very comfortable with our place in society, that we're so needed. And how would anybody dare say anything bad about us? And, we teach students and we put out great educated, figures in society. And so we're doing everything right. And then you start going through that list that you name. When you're going through that list, I was like, I felt like getting punched, left hook, right hook, left hook, right hook. And then what can happen, and I think what happened to our industry, is we went into a little bit of a turtle shell, trying to play defense, put a shield on, waiting for this public sentiment possibly to pass. The value of college will come back, and I don't have to do anything about it. I'm a college president at my college, small or big, and somebody else will deal with this. I'm just going to keep serving the students that I have. But we're all responsible for telling our own stories. And I feel like that we're just now coming around to the idea that we have a packaging problem. We know what we do. We educate the general public. We put out students who have degrees. And then you have varsity blues or some of these things that take place. The public goes, what the heck is going on in higher education? And we had an opportunity to go, here's what the heck is going on in higher education. We have graduates, they're occupying jobs, there's ROI. We just didn't tell it. And then when you don't take the advantage of, you don't take the offense that you talked about, you don't take the offensive, you will be on the defense for a long time before you can start taking the offense again, because people will believe you that you're genuine. I feel like we missed the chance a little bit, but maybe leaders are coming back around. What do you think?
I think that's right. There is a good message. There is a good story to tell. There have been a lot of studies about return on investment, and most, if not all of them, say that it is pretty strong. I mean, college does pay off, especially in the long run. It's the closest thing we have to a silver bullet, especially for people not born into privilege. And what I fear is that today's students, who are finding these alternatives, they're going into the job market, finding alternative credentials, they may be losing out on the long-term ROI by taking a short-term satisfaction through a decent salary, a decent job. But we know that higher education pays off in the long term, maybe not so much in the short term as you're paying off debt. But students entering the job market for these relatively high jobs they're foregoing opportunity, but they may be trading long-term gains for short-term satisfaction. I mean, there was one study that showed, liberal arts has been in the news a lot because, these programs are getting cut left and right. And I'm not saying that the sort of Darwinian forces shouldn't be acting upon higher education, but if students who are in the liberal arts, want to pursue that for personal intellectual reasons, that the ROI after 10 years, as one study showed, is $45,000 below the median. But by 40 years is $200,000 higher. So there is some long-term payoff. Not for everybody, but I do think that these are more stories that institutions can tell that a bachelor's degree in particular does pay off.
Tell them like it is.
I agree. And you know what? By the way, I forgot to tell you that I use in-episode sound effects. So I love your reaction.
No,
you're getting surprised.
I did notice.
What I think we've done as an industry is we are, I don't want to say succumbing, but kind of. The consumer wants an ROI. Consumer wants to understand what the ROI is. And we've said, okay, here's the ROI. You're going to get this skill or this degree or this credential, and you're going to get this job, and it's going to make you, you see the direct line. Okay, we all need to understand that. I don't think any of us, probably like you and I, Mark, where we got graduated with our undergrads and somebody patted us on the back, handed us a piece of paper and said, good luck in the work world. Good luck. Go where you may go. Walk down the path. And you went, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I remember sitting in my room going, I don't know what to do now. So I took a one-way Amtrak train from Syracuse, New York to Denver, Colorado, where I stayed for 17 years. But that's another podcast. So we don't talk about the next job or the next job or the next job that a bachelor's degree helped you get. We're only focused on the one coming right out of college. And I mean, how many jobs has the average American have in their lifetime? I don't know. I think it's like 5 or 6, or I don't know what the stat is, but I'm pretty sure that most of us will be making, and I don't have a stat, but I'm guessing that most people will be making more on job 5 than they were on job 1. And could you have gotten job 5 if you didn't have a bachelor's degree? I don't know that we're telling that story. We're too focused up front on the immediacy. Like everything we want is immediate. We're flicking our phones and we're skipping intros on Netflix, and we want it right now. My Amazon package is literally 15 minutes late. Where the heck is the truck? Right? Like that's how we operate. But we're not thinking about the longer term. You think that's creating cloudiness around this whole issue?
Mark your calendars now for February 12th through 14th, because this is where we welcome the era of the modern learner and the most anticipated higher education marketing and enrollment management conference of the year. We're headed to New Orleans for Insights EDU 2025. This year's event is packed with speakers from companies like Google, Meta, Reddit, and MIQ Digital, and schools across the country. Ready to learn how AI is transforming the marketing landscape and how to adapt your programs to the preferences and demands of the modern learner? Then Insights EDU 2025 is where you need to be. Register now at insightsedu.com.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference. We'll see you there.
Hey everybody, this is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Are you enjoying the conversation so far? Good, I hope so. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early before anybody else and ad-free, so you don't have to hear my voice during these ads? And did you also know that you could get extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content? That's right, original content, and invites to special events all while helping to sustain EdUp? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. So go to edupexperience.com, that's EDUP experience.com, and become a subscriber today. First, you got to sign up to our free email newsletter, and then you'll find out how to become a subscriber. Again, go to edupexperience.com.
I think so. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Jerry Seinfeld Bee movie, where the bees.
I know the Bee movie.
Where the bees were being trained for a very specific. They were gaining a skill that they would have for life and operate, within very narrow parameters for the rest of their bee lives. So it's sad to think that you would go through life like that, unless you find something that's truly your passion and is very satisfying, fulfilling. That's great. But you're right. I think that, it's hard to see around corners and know what's down the road, what the next emerging thing might be, or what might just catch your interest. And a bachelor's degree not only gives you the credential, but gives you the flexibility to pursue some of those. We've seen a lot of employers, some state governments, promises of the federal government recently, not requiring bachelor's degrees. But that doesn't mean that employers don't favor people. And it doesn't mean that, you have the same kind of flexibility throughout your career if you didn't have one. Not to mention, going to graduate school, going to professional school, becoming a lawyer or a doctor, et cetera. You're going to need a bachelor's degree for that. Those doors remain closed. So, I think, like I said, focusing on more the long term, easier said than done, especially if, you are in a certain position in your life or your family where a good job is important right now. That's not to say that you can't always go back. I mean, this is the land of second, third, and fourth opportunities. There's always a chance to go back and earn a degree, finish a degree, tell it to the 40 million Americans who have some college but no degree. We haven't talked that much about the enrollment cliff, but I think there's possible salvation there for colleges and certainly some benefit for the end user. But I think thinking long term and what could this do for me? And again, from the college's perspective, telling the story, maybe showing some examples of people who, changed their minds 3 different ways, came later in life, earned a degree. I'm not saying colleges don't do this, but those are the kinds of stories you don't hear as much. We're kind of flooded with the bad news, as I said earlier.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is because we like bad news as consumers too, or readers. It catches our attention, and that's I think for any kind of what's that?
Give us dirty laundry.
Yeah, yeah. What's skeletons in the closet? Ooh, juicy stuff. But we're talking about a world we live in right now. Craziness of the political realm is very divisive. That causes a lot of angst amongst people, which turns into violence and sometimes protests and on campus and disruption and all of these things. And then you've got college presidents who are really under fire. With the average presidency is down to, I think, a little over 5 years from 8 or 9 in previous studies. And there just isn't a pipeline of people who want to be. I mean, I think I was on the track myself. I always thought I'm going to be a college president. Like, that's what I wanted to do. And then I went, but do I? Do I want to do that? Like, do I want to be on a campus somewhere? And I, believe me, respect to my colleagues. I interview college presidents on purpose because I feel like they need an outlet. They need to tell the story. But there's a lot of people out there that just go, I don't know, I'm not sure anymore. And that creates a lot of stress and pressure on the industry in general for succession planning, for new leadership. And, what's to be done here, Mark? What do you think that, I guess my question is this just a risky proposition at this point, college presidency?
I think it always has been. It's probably worse now under a microscope and dealing with really thorny issues. Add to everything you said, depending on where you are, constant pressure to raise money.
Yep.
And to be on the road and meeting major donors, waging capital campaigns, which is another sort of byproduct of these presidential delays. I don't think you'll see that many, but they necessarily couldn't wage them in this climate anyway. But certainly with an interim president, it's going to be tough to convince major donors to give maybe some money. But yeah, I think there is a ton of pressure on these presidents. Just look at what 3 of them, and then some of their colleagues subsequently went through in these congressional. Who would want to be subject to that? Now, for the vast majority of college presidents, they are not going to be under us. If you're at a regional public college, community college, you're not making headlines unless you do something really salacious. So it's a little different across the industry, but there's still some talent to be. I'm sure you'll still get people stepping up, stepping into the breach, jumping into the crucible, however you want to think about it, and taking on that challenge and saying, this is an important time. These are important institutions. This university I'm taking over, college, is an important place for various reasons. And I'm willing to, shoulder the mantle of leadership, and sort of take a chance. I think there are enough people out there, qualified, talented people, to do that. And I hope they step forward and do step in.
You're also going to have some that say this: I don't think so. But you know what? That's how it goes. And you're going to have people step up, and those that don't. I want to know from you what you are reporting on next. I mean, maybe you don't give the detail as a journalist, so you don't say my next story is, but there's a couple of issues that I think are bubbling right now. There's DEI infrastructures are being removed from college campuses across the nation in many different states. And then you've got the college admissions stuff happening where there's less diversity in incoming classes because of some of the regulatory environment. Are these 2 things that you have eyes on?
Less so the DEI. I have colleagues who focus more on that than I do. Not that I turn a blind eye to it, I certainly pay attention to it, but they're more the expert than I am. But I have been following admissions, especially, I covered, all the wrap-up Supreme Court case last year, and certainly how it unfolded, speculated about the repercussions. Now that students are returning this fall, looking at what the impact is. Wrote a couple of stories recently, like many people covering this industry, about how that decision is manifesting on college campuses, and it's uneven. And have to say that I predicted, maybe not so surprisingly predicted, that there'd be at least threats of lawsuits coming out against institutions who sort of buck the trend, if you will. Not that 1 year makes a trend, but if they're skewing in a certain direction while others are skewing in the opposite direction, then they're going to get the attention of some of these watchdog groups. So that probably wasn't too difficult to predict, but it certainly. And it'll be interesting to see how that continues. I mean, again, 1 year isn't a trend. So keeping an eye on how this plays out, looking at some of the data sets and iPads information for those institutions who aren't so forthcoming in making this information public. And then just seeing what happens on campus. I mean, there's also that, how does it play out on campus? I mean, does it change the student experience in any way? Does it change how universities operate in terms of their admissions? Sure, it does, and it is. But we know that it's a changing landscape, and watching institutions and the students that educate them to it is fascinating.
It is. You brought it up earlier. Some college and no degree population, enrollment cliff. I guess we're in enrollment cliff, or many. What was it, 2025 or 2024 to 2027, whatever it was. We're in it. We're seeing some schools affected by it. FAFSA did not help. It did not help, right? So you would just for the audience, and many people know this, but you would have a pretty good idea typically of your incoming class. If you're a traditional institution on a normal agrarian academic calendar, you would know that your class was mostly solid by May 1st, the deadline. And then you would have the summer to be communicating with those students, and then you would have a fall, and you'd probably have some forecasted percentage. If you had 500 students coming in, you could expect around 450, whatever your percentage was. But many schools didn't get their financial aid packaging out till June, some July, some August, some didn't even have it done when the students were on their campus. And that made it really fuzzy. And I have a sound effect for that, but I won't hit it. But the math was really fuzzy. And it was because you didn't know how many students you were going to have on campus. And now we're seeing some campuses made cuts early, thinking, you know what, my class isn't going to come in right. I'm going to make cuts. Now we're starting to see the very few, in my opinion, record enrollment press releases. In a given year, you'd see 30, 40, 50 of those. I think I've probably seen 10. There's just less of them. And then you're starting to see now the cuts coming around. I'm going to cut 40 faculty. I'm going to look at my programs again. What are you expecting to see as we move forward here, Mark? More of the same, more cutting, since FAFSA is delayed again? You think something else is going to happen? Do you think that schools are going to magically reinvent themselves to access some college no degree population? What are you thinking?
I'm hoping, like most people, that the FAFSA thing is kind of behind us. I know it's still playing out, and it may affect, enrollments for a couple of years if fewer students are coming in now. That has ripple effect down the road. But I'm hoping it was an ephemeral situation, and they learned their lessons. They're putting in them, and some institutions were more successful than others in dealing with it. And of course, there were certain student populations were more. So I'm hoping it doesn't become an ongoing issue. Now, the enrollment cliff will. That's coming. That's just winter is coming. Say we can see it. We saw it coming a long time ago. We just weren't paying attention to it. I mean, the demographers were, but not everybody was until it's kind of right there in your rearview mirror. There are ways that colleges can deal with it. I think, there were threats of enrollment declines decades ago, and colleges got through it. They might not to the same degree, so to speak, now, but we know it's coming. I was in Massachusetts for a number of years where demographics weren't kind long before any talk of an enrollment cliff, just basic demographics, shifting populations. And we would always talk around the table about what are we going to do? How are we going to deal with fewer students? And, what are the implications for the institution with fewer students? And I'm no genius when it comes to this stuff, that's for sure. Probably that's why I'm doing this, not still working for a college. But I thought, just get smarter, just get better at what you do. You don't need thousands more students. You need a handful more, relatively speaking, a handful more. Just get better about recruitment, outreach, get a slightly larger piece of the pie. I mean, not everybody can do that, shrinking. But as an institution, you can adopt that mindset and say, we have to take proactive steps here, not just sit back and think, well, we're doomed. At the same time, I think there's some solutions possibly out there. Dual enrollment holds great promise, especially not just enrolling the kids in dual enrollment. We're going to go to college anyway, right? And there's a lot of them, but getting those populations for whom dual enrollment is a launching pad into higher education, particularly through community colleges. That's the kind of population you're focused on, people who might not be in the pipeline, but could be through dual enrollment. Again, I mentioned the some college no degree population, get them re-enrolled. 40 million Americans. I mean, even a small fraction of those adults coming back would pay huge dividends. Graduate programs, they've come under fire recently for their own ROI But there are some good graduate programs out there that make a lot of sense for people, ramping up those if you're an institution and focusing insofar as we can on international students. That population is growing. We'll see what happens in November and what the implications for that might be, because we saw what happened before. But you asked about, the future. I really don't consider myself a futurist, because you're either wrong or lucky, because nobody has a crystal ball. Think about all these videos you see on YouTube and TikTok about, prior predictions about television and personal computers and the internet. Dan and Dave, most of them don't pan out very well. They can look foolish. I do think, that Darwinian force will continue. More private colleges will close or merge. That's happening and will continue as students vote with their feet. Public systems are consolidating.
Yeah.
And there's not much said about that, but they are consolidating. That might drive some displaced students out of state looking for opportunity or just be closed out, resulting in higher tuition costs potentially. I'm thinking a lot of public institutions might continue to reduce curricular overlap within the system and therefore limit the breadth of options students have on a particular campus. So if, I'm pick something, if you want to major in history, instead of being able to do that at 5 different campuses in your system, now you can do it 2.
Yeah.
Because they've considered it, too much overlap and are looking for efficiency. Brand name institutions, I think, will continue to get more and more competitive as students seek better ROI guarantees, that there's such a thing, but playing the odds, especially at those schools that can offer more financial aid to need it. These students are also, a lot of students are going to keep looking for more alternative credentials that are quicker, cheaper, more targeted to student demands, market demands. So I think you're going to see a lot of that. And hopefully institutions themselves will continue to build that into the curriculum. I mean, if you find that students or potential students are discovering what they need outside of what you offer, maybe it's time to rethink your curriculum and offer what they need within reason. We know higher education is a little change averse and isn't quick to adapt, but they really need to be. I mean, just look what they're doing with AI. Everybody's jumping on board. It's the new Wild West of the curriculum and the workplace, and they're trying to wrap their minds and their hands, figure out what's going on, and trying to harness it to make good use of it, and make sort of positive statement about what AI can be on campus and in the workplace.
What do you make of the NCAA stuff going on? You brought it up. I mean, this is a huge topic and something I wanted to talk to you about. And I have some theories, crazy ones, but it's going to be like the NBA G League, right? Where you're going to have like your bottom tier to middle tier D1 schools. You're going to have some blue chip recruit that got hurt in his senior year that went to one of the smaller schools because he lost his recruiting opportunities, or her, have a great breakout year in the freshman year. It's so-and-so XYZ college or university, former blue chip recruit, now amazing. So, has 50 points a game. Bang. University of Georgia is going to pluck you out. Bang. You're going to get pulled out by University of Connecticut. You're just going to see movement, and the teams in the lower mid tiers could get worse, right? There's not going to have as many good players because those good players will have a good year and just move very quickly to the upper echelon of, let's call it, football money schools. And I want you to tell me how crazy I am, or we're going to have D1 half, right? You're going to have a new division of your money ball schools, essentially, who have college football, who have tons of money coming in, your big Power 5 conferences, and then you're going to have another league of the remainder of D1 schools. Maybe it'll be like the English Premier League where you could become relegated or promoted based on how you do. but something's going to have to happen, and you're just going to have massive movement of kids everywhere. That creates havoc for college campuses on their scholarships, on their discount rates. I mean, just managing the discount rate and the net tuition revenue as somebody who came from enrollment, for me, I'm going, whoa, good thing. I'm glad I'm not in enrollment right now, because just having people come in and out, my discount rate is going to blow up. What do you make of this whole situation? And am I crazy?
You're not crazy, but the whole system is crazy.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You talked about not wanting to be a college president. How about being an athletic director? Or
yeah, for sure.
Now, I've written a lot about college sports. We're not ESPN or Sports Illustrated, but we do cover college sports because it's such a major issue. And for a lot of institutions, it is, people say it's the front door. It's the most visible aspect of the institution. I mean, ask, any alum who's a sports fan to name the college football coach or, the basketball coach or the quarterback. And I'm sure they could, rattle off all these names. Ask me who the college president is.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably couldn't. We're not talking amateurs. Just call it what it is. This is not at this level. It's Power Four. Now, we already have that bifurcation. We have the Power Four. The 12 is trying to make a comeback, but they have been relegated. They're no longer a viable as far as the system is concerned. The NCAA, etc. They're viable in the sense that they will continue to be a conference once they get 2 more members, but they're not autonomous anymore, and they have lost their power status. So it's Power Four, and then the Group of 5, and basically everybody else. So as goes college football, goes college sports. Basketball certainly is in the zeitgeist out there, especially in March. But it's college football and everything else. That's what dominates everything. The conference realignments, NIL, you name it. And we're not talking about amateurs. Institutions are going to be paying players directly, treating them as employees. I don't know where they're going to get the money, because only a handful of institutions, sports programs, athletic departments actually turn a profit. And the NIL money that's going to the students and the athletes directly. We have these reshuffling of conferences, these traditional rivalries that have been there for 100 years or more are torn apart for the sake of larger media deals. Not to mention the impact of cross-country travel on student athletes. You want to talk about crazy? I think I did a piece on private equity in college sports, and we're starting to see a little bit of that. There was an announcement recently about Howard University seeking investors. The question is, how do you do that as a nonprofit?
Yeah.
I mean, what's in it for the investors? And I don't pretend to know a whole lot about that. Sometimes you know just enough to write about it, and that's it. So what you see in the iceberg, there's nothing underneath the water. There's no.
It's just floating. It's floating without anything underneath.
It's just floating. There's no wellspring of knowledge there undergirding this. It's just what you see on top. But I was thinking, having for-profit spin-offs associated with college, kind of like, almost like these institutionally related foundations that are still nonprofit, but they're kind of an arm's length organization. Have a for-profit spin-off associated with these universities that would enable private equity investment. So why not have Crimson Tide? And that's what operates the athletic program, or maybe just, I don't know. And let students who are affiliated with that corporation attend classes and earn degrees as part of their employment agreement. But then you have that arm's length agreement and that separation, and it allows for private equity. It answers the question, where does the money come from? It certainly sullies everything, but we're already moving in that direction anyway. So why not just, go full bore and call it what it is? It's professional sports. It's the G League, as you said. So just set it up like that. Now, I'm sure there's 1,000 reasons why institutions either do that or don't want to do that. And if I pose that to presidents or athletic directors or coaches, they'd probably think I was crazy. But don't be surprised if we start to see more of that, starting to take shape over the next couple of years, because it's the Wild West. And you think AI is just look at college sports.
Well, Mark, anything else you want to say about your work before we head to our subscriber-only part of our episode here? Anything you want? Where do we follow you? Where can we read your stuff? Anything else you want to say?
Well, thanks. I do appreciate that. I appreciate having me on. It's been my pleasure. BestColleges.com. Check out our work. Especially look at the news and research tabs at the top. I have, just on a personal note, just finished a manuscript for a new book.
Yeah.
I hope will be coming out sometimes. You know how that process.
You have a title for this sucker yet, or you?
I do, but I'm holding it close.
All right. We'll all be ready.
Surprise.
Yes. The premise is it's a humorous memoir of a retiring college president, speaking of college presidents, leaving an institution occupying the bottom rung of America.
I love it.
So it's sort of like the have-nots.
We'll love to help you promote it when you have it done.
I appreciate that.
All right, everybody. This has been another episode of the EdUp Experience. Hang on tight for Mark to come back for our subscribers only. Ladies and gentlemen, he's Mark Drozdowski. He's the lead writer at BestColleges. Mark, we hope you had a good time.
I did. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
There you have it, everybody. You just EdUp'd. Higher ed leaders, ready to level up your marketing and enrollment strategy? Join us at Insights EDU February 12th through 14th in New Orleans. The ultimate higher education marketing and enrollment management conference is here. Take advantage of early bird prices until December 12th. Register now at insightsedu.com. Welcome to the era of the modern learner.
Attention.
Registration is now open for the Middle States Commission on Higher Education 2024 Annual Conference, Protecting the Future, Champions for Higher Education, December 11th through 13th, 2024 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Don't miss out. Register today at msche.org/annual-conference or head to msche.org and click on the conference link. I'll see you there.
Hey, everybody. This is Elvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. Did you enjoy that conversation? I hope you did. Did you know that you can actually hear this conversation early on and ad-free? And you can also hear extended episodes, bonus episodes, original content. That's right, original content and invites to special events, all while helping to sustain EdUp. Did you know that? Well, if you didn't know, now you know. To become a subscriber, go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com to subscribe to our free email newsletter to learn how you can get access. Again, that's edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com.